Hi, this is Stacie Robinson, and with me is Aliza Milette-Winfree, our Monk Seal recovery coordinator.
Response coordinator for Oahu.
And Gregg Levine, our Monk Seal veterinarian, who's on contract, who was there with us the day we moved Kaimana. And we are here in our, not on the real beach, we're here in our NOAA library where we have a little fake beach set up to mimic our Monk Seal camps that are in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. So it's just a little snippet of where our field campers live. But so we are here to give you an update on Kaimana, and I'll let Aliza get us started.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I was actually just on the phone with our volunteer network who was giving me the most up-to-date information on what Kaimana has been doing today. So actually the first day that we brought her to the quieter location, she glumped down to the water and started exploring and looking around. She started swimming about, and she ended up swimming about a mile down the beach and exploring her new area, and came back and just kind of went back and forth and rested on the sand. And she's continued to do that over the past few days. She's actually met a friend and has been seen frolicking around with her new friend. So we were all very excited to see that instead of her frolicking around with slippers under umbrellas and huge crowds. So I think she's pretty happy in her new location. I know that folks had a lot of questions about how the transport went and the capture. It was really awesome that we were able to share some video with you guys, and we'd really like to talk a little bit more about how it all went. Stacie?
Sure. So I'll just, for those that maybe didn't see the after game Saturday evening broadcast, I'll give you just a little overview about how Kaimana's move went. We showed up at Kaimana Beach early in the morning, a little bit before dawn, and we had to wait for our star to arrive. She didn't haul out until maybe 7:30.
There's not enough paparazzi yet.
No, she was waiting for her crowd. She was like, you cannot move me before my fans come to see it. So we had a pretty big crowd of people by the time we actually caught her. So we did kind of a quick scooper up in a net that has handles on, like a big net kind of the size of a sheet with large poles, handles on either side. And we scooped her up in that and then got her in a cage so that we could transport her. And then once we got to our nice quiet location and had some shade and some time, then we did the whole workup. We put tags on her for identification. We put a satellite tag on her to be able to track her movements. We got some blood samples, nasal swabs, gave her some vaccinations. And I think at this point, I'll maybe let Dr. Gregg give you guys a little more of a rundown on kind of how that process works and how those samples are really good for us to study monk seals and understand what's going on with them.
Thanks, ladies. Good morning, and thanks for letting me be a part of this. I think I'll just start with not having been close to Kaimana the whole period that everyone was watching her and being a part. It was great to show up to the beach on Saturday morning and just see all the interest and the people that were really caring about this animal and making those connections that are really unusual, that folks like Aliza and Stacie get to do all the time, but if you're in the general public in Honolulu, you don't get to do that. So I thought that was really special. I thought it was also very working with wildlife. You can't predict everything, and you like Stacie said, you can't always know that the animal's going to be there. So you have to be flexible in how you go about it and where the animal might be, one beach over or where you want the animal to come. I think that was the team did a really good job of collecting the animal, and I had the honor of participating in this transport to basically the job of the wildlife veterinarian, the monk seal veterinarian, is to ensure the animal's safe during the transport and is breathing okay and is doing all right and being able to respond if there are any problems. Many animal transports happen all the time without veterinarians. For this one, we had some other goals that we wanted to achieve, which Stacie alluded to, and when we got to the location where we were going to release the seal, we wanted to not only put the identifying tags in, but also collect some blood samples, we'll talk about that, and affix the satellite tag for proper monitoring. So this meant that we were going to handle the seal probably longer than 5 or 10 minutes. If we're going to handle a seal for less than that amount of time, we can usually get everything we needed to do without light sedation. But in order to not have the seal overheat or become too excited, then that's where light sedation is indicated and where the veterinarian really needs to be involved as part of that. So with the transport, we found a nice shady location right at the beach where she was going to be released. We gave her a very light sedative and commenced with our procedure of taking blood sample. Our blood sample was not intended to look at general health parameters, but we wanted to get baseline information. As you may or may not know, there is, we are vaccinating Hawaiian monk seals for a virus that has afflicted other marine mammal species around the world, but not yet in Hawaii. So as an endangered species, we want to be prepared for that eventuality. And so we've started a vaccination campaign for a virus called morbillivirus, similar to canine distemper, but very different. So the monk seal is not going to get affected by distemper from a dog. So not going too far out of the way. We took baseline blood samples to find out if this animal had any reaction to antibodies for morbillivirus before it was vaccinated. The intent is down the line, some point we might get another blood sample from Kaimana to see if she has any reactivity. That was really quick, and we got those blood samples as well as some nasal swabs that'll be looking for the virus in other places and then in the mucous membranes of the nose. And then we turned it over to Stacie and the team for applying the tag, which really only takes about 10 minutes. And then it was just a matter of monitoring her recovery, nice and easy, and which she did. She recovered real slowly, but in the way that we would expect. And it was almost nice to see her do that slow recovery and listen to the ocean as she woke up and turn around and see the beach that she was going to be released at. So that kind of recaps my role, and just really special to be able to work with such a neat animal, crazy, beautiful, endangered species, as well as a highly professional team that just has the utmost respect for the animals and doing the best they can for this population.
We have a few questions from our viewers. A bunch of people have asked if Rocky has been spotted and how is she doing. And then we also have questions asking if Kaimana is able to find her own food now. And people are asking about the pup cam and whether or not they'll be able to continue to watch Kaimana grow up.
Who asked that? Was the name Tony?
So the first question is, has anyone spotted Rocky? From my understanding, we've had one report of Rocky. It's unconfirmed, but it sounds like the person who identified her is pretty familiar with her. But we can't be certain because we don't have a photograph. But she was potentially seen at Hanauma Bay, swimming and foraging around. So we haven't seen her come up and haul out anywhere as of yet. We are definitely interested in hearing reports. Again, that sighting number is 220-7802. So if you guys do see her or see any other seal, we would love to hear about it. And so the other question was... Is Kaimana able to find her own food and such? So, she's big and fat. So she's out and she's exploring. She's not in desperate need of a huge food source, but she is certainly looking around, looking at the rocks and trying to play around with different things. And she's likely eating whatever she comes across as a healthy thing. Again, not slippers. So yeah, I would say she's certainly foraging around a bit. And the last question is the Pupdate or the pup cam. We we don't have anything set up just yet.
Hold on one second. We're just going to... So when we do these things,
yes.
sometimes we have technical difficulties.
Hello.
they could hear you for most of it.
Oh, good. Okay.
So don't worry.
Good. So I didn't have a really good answer.
Okay.
Okay. You guys just missed the most hilarious joke ever. I'm sorry.
All right, people can hear.
Okay, good. Good.
Somebody asked, how old is Rocky's friend? The
Oh,
seal that she
Kaimana's
was
friend.
or-
Oh, Kaimana's friend. So I don't know that we have an ID for sure on the animal. Do you? Somebody thought it was.
We don't have a certain ID, and we actually don't have a certain age for the ID we think it is. But this is a little fun fact about how we ID seals. So the seal that we think it is, his research name is R330, who I think his nickname might be Squinty.
Maybe.
Not certain about that. There is a Squinty around her area. But so one of the interesting things is, so when we have a seal that we catch as a first weaned pup and we're going to put tags on them, we give them a research name that has like the 2 letters and the 2 numbers. So like Kaimana is RJ58. And if we first see a seal as an adult, we don't know exactly how old they are. So I guess important part about those 2 letters, so that the J for Kaimana's RJ58 identifies her as a seal that was born in 2017. So all of the pups in the main islands for this year will have RJ something something for their number. So then in future years when we see those tags, we not only know which animal it is, but we know what island or group of islands they came from, and we know what year they were born, so we know their age, which is really, really cool. But sometimes we don't see an animal until it's already fully grown. And then it takes seals about 5 years to be fully grown, so we have an idea they might be 5 or older, but we don't know exactly how old. So if it is R330, it's an adult-sized seal, but we actually don't know the age. And now you know some fun facts about how we track seals.
We have a question from Alden who asks, will the transmitter that was attached to Kaimana eventually fall off when she molts?
So that was actually a very perceptive question. I think this is someone who's read our website or something. They asked if the transmitter we put on Kaimana will eventually fall off when she molts. And I'm really glad to get that question because I did notice some comments and things on the live stream or on the Facebook that were a little bit concerned about this transmitter that we put on Kaimana and whether or not it was implanted or if it was going to be uncomfortable. And so the transmitter is about this long, and actually it's really similar to the size of my thumb. And basically we actually just super glue that on the back of her. It's some really strong 10-minute epoxy sort of super duper glue. And so we just put the epoxy on and hold that to her fur for about 10 minutes till the epoxy dries. And then, yes, this really cool thing about monk seals is that they molt every year. So when Kaimana's coat is all gross and slimy and covered in algae and she's ready to molt it, that tag is just going to come right off with her fur, and then there's not going to be scars, there's not going to be anything left of it. So it's really convenient that these tags stick on just with epoxy, and then they fall off and there's no sign of them. And long before she molts it off, it'll lose battery and we'll quit getting readings from that. But so far we've been getting a couple of satellite hits a day. The satellites that go over they kind of orbit around the poles, so close to the equator like we are. Those satellites are really far between, so we don't get a ton of satellite hits every day. But we've been getting about 2 satellite hits for her each day, and they show her kind of, it's really great to see. She's really centered at the location where we released her, and then she's kind of just been adventuring maybe like half mile to a mile either direction from that.
Do you offhand know about how many seals we've put satellite tags like this on before?
Oh gosh. If we're including the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, it's around 140 something. Yeah. So I just I've gotten to dig through all of that all of that data. There's piles of it. Yes. Thank you.
Stuck with that a lot. So.
Yes. Yeah, and we've learned a ton of things. We've learned all about how wide monk seals range, or like how far they go in any direction, how much area they really need to feed themselves, how deeply they dive, what sorts of depth ranges of the ocean they hang out in, and then from that we can get some better guesses as to what they're eating. So yeah, these tags give us a lot of really great information. And, you know, if you consider a little thing the size of my thumb on the back of a seal.
She doesn't have an abnormally sized thumb at all. It's very
Can I, is there a way to, like, the perspective in your camera? But, you know.
Show them how big that they used to be.
Oh, gosh. Some of the tags used to, the regular, simple, the tag we have on her is pretty simple. It's just giving location. It's not giving, like, speed estimates and a lot of other fancy data. But the simple tags used to just be like this big, and so technology just gets better and better and better. They get smaller and smaller, smoother and smoother, so there's not really drag or anything like that. And yeah, compared to the rocks and every which other thing seals are laying on all the time, they're not even going to notice this little thumb-sized thingy on their back.
We have a question from Alexandra. What age range is considered juvenile for monk seals?
We have kind of a stage. So they are considered weaners or weaned seals. Wieners is.
We wouldn't say that on camera.
It is a scientific term, people. Where is your mind? So from the time they leave their mom until they're about 1 year old, we call them weaners. And then the 1 and 2 year olds are what we call juveniles. And when we're collecting our data, we try to guesstimate animals' ages based on their size, and so we might classify animals as a J1 or a J2, which sort of means a juvenile that's about the size of a 1 year old or a juvenile that's about the size of a 2 year old. And then when they're 3 and 4, we call them subadults. So it's basically kind of like being a kid versus being a teenager. And then also we'll say S3 or S4 for a subadult that looks about 3 years old, or a subadult that looks about 4 years old. And then by the time they're 5, usually they're adult size. And then somewhere around that 5-year mark, when they reach adult size, they also reach sexual maturity.
So I'm always trying to remember these different ages and the J1, J2, and all of these things. I'm really glad it's now on tape and that I can just go and replay it when I am trying to remember. So thank you for that.
Have there been other seals who have visited Kaimana's location, and do you know if Rocky has frequented that location in the past?
So we do know that there are other seals in that area. We've only had one report of, the question, thank you. The question was, do we know if there are other seals that have frequented the area that Kaimana is in, and does Rocky frequent that area? So we do know that there are other seals besides the one that Kaimana has been seen playing with, but we've only had the first report of her playing with that one individual so far. But that was definitely one of our identifiers to pick that location in particular, because we wanted to make sure that there were other animals, other young animals for her to play around with and learn from, versus out at Kaimana Beach, which there was one other adult that visited that area. In terms of Rocky in that location, I don't think we have any sightings of her over there.
Certainly not since we released Kaimana. It's not generally her main stomping ground.
Yeah, but that certainly happens quite frequently with monk seal moms and pups, is they end up kind of diverging and going to different areas, and they don't end up, sometimes they end up seeing in the same area, but sometimes not. So it's pretty normal.
Someone asks, can you recognize the seals once the tracking device is gone?
The question was, can we recognize the seals once the tracking device is gone? And most likely, yes. Typically, we have individuals that we tag at weaning, and certainly if we're going to put on a tag, a satellite tag, and it doesn't have a tag, we would likely put one on at that point. And so we're able to use those identifying tags that are on the hind flippers to identify the individual. But also they have a lot of natural markings as well. And so if they have any bleach marks on their fur or other scarring from their natural environment, we're able to use those to identify individuals.
And about the bleach marks and natural identifiers. Sometimes that's the bleach mark is like a white splotch of their fur. Sometimes animals unfortunately get some big shark bite or a scar that's really identifiable. When we were up close with Kaimana, some really astute observers on the beach might have noticed this too, But when we were up close, we noticed she's got like just some really tiny, like several really tiny little white marks on her fur, almost like a few little freckles here and there. So have to look really close to see them, but that might be something to look out for as well.
Do monk seals tend to come back to the beach they were born on?
There is about a 60% chance that they'll come back to the actual beach they were born on, and about a 70% chance that they'll come back to, and this is like coming back to have their pups. It's about a 70% chance that they'll come back to the same island to have their pup, and about 60% chance they'll come back to the same beach. And that's another one of these cool things we've been able to figure out because we get such good information with people calling in sightings, and also from the field camps that we've had for years and watching moms and pups and then the next generation and the next year and tagging animals and following them through time. So yeah, those are the cool sorts of things we're able to figure out from all of those tags and things we put on animals.
A question from Rose. What is Kaimana eating these days?
Ooh, so the question was, what is Kaimana eating these days? The answer is probably just about anything she can catch. In general, monk seals are, we call them sort of generalist feeders, meaning they don't have just one specific thing that they eat. They're open to eating a number of different fish, crustaceans, octopus, things like that. But so what they're really specialized in is the way that they get their food. So they tend to dive down to the bottom and then kind of nose around in the sand or in rocks. And so they're really good at finding prey that's kind of hiding along the bottom. So whatever crustaceans or octopus or fish she might be finding down there are all things that she would be eating by now. So once monk seals wean, pretty much adult food is fair game. They just have to get good at catching it.
I have a question for Stacie. This is a question for Stacie. Like when you spent.
That's what I love doing here, is just asking Stacie questions.
No, like for you personally, when you spend time in the field, which you spend a lot of years, what did you see as far as weaned, either pre-weaned or weaned? What was the earliest time that you saw an animal eat? And that you can remember?
I don't know, and I actually have not been out in the field camps as much as a lot of other people in the program. But I feel like really as soon as monk seals are weaned, they start swimming around and diving. And we have had some tags with dive depth recorders on really young seals, and they dive, say probably like 75% of their time might be 30 meters or less. So that's basically like reef territory. And sometimes they'll go a little bit deeper, up to maybe like 100 feet. So they're mostly sticking fairly close and fairly shallow. But then I guess one of the things that we always notice, so like usually monk seals are, they're diving out in the water. They might come to the surface and chomp on their fish like right at the surface, but we don't always see that because they don't really like bring it back to shore to eat it. So oftentimes we don't know unless we are collecting fecal samples or something like that. But one of the really visible things that monk seals eat are sea cucumbers, and we notice that because they tend to squish the guts all over their face, and then they have stringy little sea cucumber guts everywhere.
Are monk seals normally social with each other, or do they prefer to be alone?
So the question is, are monk seals normally social with each other, or do they prefer to be alone? Stacie, I have a question for you. How did monk seals get their name?
There are a number of theories about that. One of the theories is actually that they're quite solitary, like monks. They hang out by themselves. But another one of the theories is that they're so chubby, the little fat rolls in their necks look like the little rolled up hoods that monks wear.
I like that one.
I like that one too. I like the idea of fat, happy, and antisocial monk seals.
Yes.
I guess. But,
I can relate sometimes.
Definitely, I think we all can.
Did any Gregorian chant or anything?
I've yet to hear, although, you've heard them make, they're like, rah. It's kind of like
That
singing.
is.
Yeah, I think it's very chanty. But yeah, and I guess they're relatively solitary, certainly compared to what people expect with like sea lions or elephant seals that just live on piles on each other. But they're not like territorial, right? So like they're not going to chase another seal off of their beach. Well, and folks that were watching the pup cam even probably saw, well, I guess when Kaiwi got close to the pup, sure, mom would chase her away. But as long as Kaiwi wasn't coming close to pup, then Kaiwi would be laying over here, and Rocky and Kaimana would be laying over here. So they don't mess with each other a lot, but they don't seek each other out a lot either.
Yeah. And if you are seeing multiple seals in one location, it's not likely because they're trying to all get together and be super social. It's that just happens to be a good place for seals.
But I think with the exception of if they're lucky enough to be born and raised in an area where there's other weaned pups, then that's when we see some gregarious,
For
playful
sure.
activity.
Yeah, the kids play.
Yeah. Younger folks are more social, I guess.
2 questions about Kaimana's growth. At what age will she be fully grown, and will her belly color change?
So the question was, what age will Kaimana be fully grown, and then will her belly color change? So generally, we say they're at sexual maturity at 5 or 6. So she might get fatter over time, but I would say that's probably a good time to say she's an adult. In terms of her belly changing colors, so they have a catastrophic molt every year, and so it actually will change each year based on how old their fur is. But I think like right now she's a nice pretty color, and it's going to get kind of dirty and green and less pretty over time, but then when she does her molt, it'll be all pretty again.
Yeah, she's as shiny and new as she's ever going to be.
It's like going to the spa.
I do want to say one other thing about monk seal growth, and something just to, kind of let people know to look out for. So now that she's weaned, she is as fat as she's going to be. So what we're actually going to see is now that she's not getting all this milk from mom, Kaimana is actually going to start losing weight as she's, feeding herself. And when they're the 1-year-old seals are about as small as we see, because by 1, they haven't gotten really a whole lot longer, but they've gotten a lot skinnier than when they were little weaned pups getting all their mom's milk. So just to know that's just kind of part of growing up as a monk seal and learning to feed yourself. And it's not at all normal to stay as fat as they are when they first wean. She's just a little tub of jelly right now, and so she will get a little skinnier, and that's just perfectly fine.
Christine asks, how long will the vaccination Kaimana receive to protect her from the virus? Will you need to track her down for a booster in the future?
So the question was, how long will the vaccine that we gave Kaimana protect her from the virus, and will we have to track her down for a booster in the future? I feel like that's an excellent question for our veterinarian.
Yeah, thanks. So, ideally, we will booster her in the next month, just as you would if you're taking your dog into the veterinarian to get their distemper shot. And then, as this is a relatively new program, we are expecting quite a long immunity from the vaccine, but I think those are going to be questions that will be answered by subsequent opportunistic sampling and looking at the population.
And Greg, isn't that something that the blood samples that you took will help us figure out?
Absolutely. This particular blood sample, and that makes Kaimana an even extra special animal because it's not all the time that we get a blood sample before the vaccine. So a lot of information, and everything's really happening the last 2 years or so. So there's more to come on future monk seal updates.
So I think that he said something really important. This makes Kaimana even more extra special. She's been like the spoke seal for her generation. I think that, she's touched so many hearts all over the world, and we've gotten so much support and interest in monk seals, which is absolutely what we need to help, bring the population back. And so she's providing not only interest to the public and engagement, but she's also providing a lot of crucial information for scientists to be able to continue to save this population. He was talking about this vaccine and the morbillivirus and in other areas, how many just thousands and thousands and thousands of animals that it has killed. And so getting this information it's really important for this population and possibly other populations. So thanks, Kaimana.
Wendy asks, is Kaimana still playing with her friend, or was it just for that one day?
So the question was, is Kaimana still playing with her friend, or for just that one day? So we've gotten just the one report of her playing with that other animal that day, but we would suspect that it's likely is, when they encounter each other or when she encounters the other animals that are out there, we will start seeing more of that play behavior.
We have a Pupdate fan who says, can you guys do Pupdates, not just for Kaimana and Rocky, but for all of the monk seals on Oahu? It would be great to keep updated on all the monks.
Be still our hearts. The question was, can we do Pupdates for other seals and provide more information about other seals on our islands, not just Kaimana? Thank you. Again, we are super, super excited that people are really caring about monk seals. And I think that we would like to continue to provide new and innovative ways to bring the public information. So we are working on that.
Yeah. We might have to do hook updates for Benny.
No.
How many pups does the average Hawaiian monk seal have?
The question was, how many pups does the average Hawaiian monk seal have? So Rocky has now had 10 pups, and she is 17. She is about half her age, give or take. But I think they taper off with pupping in the next few years. So do we have an average?
I think the average is somewhere around 8-ish. So yeah, Rocky is up to 10 now. One of our other sort of super moms on Oahu has had 10. And then I did look this up. It was asked on one of the other pup dates, so I'm getting back to you. But our biggest mama producer of all time was a seal we actually call Momma Eve. And she is responsible for 14 pups that she's had out on Molokai at Kalapapa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She is.
Rocky's getting up there, though.
Rocky's going to give her a run for it. I think so.
People ask, does NOAA need financial support? How can people help support your work?
So the question was, does NOAA need financial support and how can people support our work? Sure, that would be great. Yes, definitely. We are as frugal with our resources as we can be, but certainly doing something like trying to recover a species takes a lot of resources, and whether it is dedicating staff time to risk assessments for something like moving this pup, or the people that it takes to move them, or the even huger logistics that it takes to get field crews out to the remote Northwest Hawaiian Islands to monitor monk seals and try to help them out there. All of these things are really resource intensive. As a federal government agency, we don't get donations and things like that. But certainly, as you've probably seen on the, maybe not on the pup dates, definitely on the webcams, there were places to donate to Civil Beat and the HMAR, the volunteer organization that gets people out to beaches to monitor seals. So there are really localized ways that people can do something like donate. But then also, I think one of the really important things that people can do, so as a federal agency, of course, our funding is tied to decisions made in Washington, D.C. So if you let your representatives know that you really value all parts of the ecosystem and you really value the conservation work and the research and expertise that the government is able to develop, let them know that's an important place for your tax dollars. You can choose other things to deprioritize as you wish, but won't get in. Yeah, actually, and I'll let Gregg mention it, but Gregg brought up another one of our great partners, the Marine Mammal Center. And they're actually the organization that funds the SEAL Rehabilitation Hospital we have in Kona. You can say a bit about them.
Yeah, if you guys are not familiar, somewhere about 3 years ago, construction was completed, and Kaiola is the monk seal hospital over at the National Natural Energy Lab, just south of the airport in Kona. And NOAA, in cooperation with the Marine Mammal Center, is working on rehabilitation of failing yearling seals from the northwestern Hawaiian Islands that, may not look as robust as Kaimana.
Definitely not.
So I don't know if I'll let Stacie speak to that in a moment. But so as part of the population assessments, they're also identifying animals that may not make it through the season or the winter. And they bring back a handful of seals for proper rehabilitation. And that is all that is all funded through grants and donations. So Kaimana, if you do go to the Marine Mammal website, thank you, the Marine Mammal Center website, you do want to try to earmark your donation towards Kaimana and monk seals. And I'll pass, and it's kind of an interesting story if you haven't heard it, the difference in health status, or not health status, or just nutritional status of seals that are growing up here versus the Northwestern.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, couldn't have said it better, but I think there's a lot of opportunities we have being a government agency with NOAA, but there's also, limitations, and we can never do everything that we wish could be done just with the public dollars that we have. So these partnerships we have are so important, and we're really, really grateful for places like Kaimana and the Marine Mammal Center overall, and all the help that they've given us, and the volunteer network here on Oahu, and other volunteer networks like on Kauai and Big Island and Maui Nui areas as well.
Two questions about Montseal pups.
I want to really quickly just add to all of that by saying that, she was talking about how getting involved in lawmaking and such is really useful. I think that if people are really wanting to even focus in more, they can look at what types of issues that monk seals face. So, for example, in Hawaii, we have a very big problem with toxoplasmosis. And so there's definitely steps that we're working with our partners and with the state to try and figure out ways to mitigate animals getting that really debilitating and torturous parasite in their bodies. And so those sorts of things, or debris in the water, finding ways to work with your local legislature to try and mitigate those issues. But yes, you had questions.
Yes. Do you notice that personality in pups stays the same as they age? And do monk seals ever have twins?
So the first question was, do we notice that personalities of pups stays the same as they age? And the second question, so I don't forget it, is, do they ever have twins? So first question, personality stays the same. Do we know what Benny was like when he was a pup? Was he like Kaimana? Because I'm a little nervous.
I don't know about really individualistic personalities, but certainly monk seal pups are more playful, more adventurous, apt to get into more trouble than any other stage. Well, weaned pups, more likely to get into trouble than any other stage of monk seals. And I guess as they get older, whether they get smarter or just more mellow, who knows? But yeah, so just any monk seal, their personality kind of just changes or matures through their life. Different monk seals seem to have different personalities, or at least different preferences, whether they're willing to put up with the crowds on Waikiki Beach, or whether they're going to skittishly get back into the water every time they see a person's shadow come by. There's a ton of individual variation with monk seals.
And I know we keep bringing up Benny, and it's probably not fair because not everybody knows that reference, but this is an animal who's repeatedly gotten hooked, and we've had to intervene multiple times. Do you know offhand how many times you've removed a hook out of Benny?
Somewhere around 5.
5 for you? Okay, and we have another veterinarian as well, so do you know?
I think it's actually been 5 hooks for Benny, which actually there's a seal, RO40, nicknamed Kaimana, who's actually the hook winner. He's had 7, but Kaimana's hooks are often little small things.
Kaimana, right?
Kaimana, yeah.
You're saying Kaimana. Just saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, not Kaimana. She hasn't been hooked. Sorry.
I just want to clear that up.
Kaimana on the brain. Kaimana on the brain. Kaimana on the hooks.
So Kaimana has had 7 so far?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
But most of those have been like little J hooks in the lip, just little, like piercing, and it gets rid of them. Yeah. Whereas Benny really likes to take it all in and come on in for the full open.
Yeah, so
surgery.
When we get a report that a seal has been hooked, one of our first questions is do you see line coming out of the mouth? Where do you see a hook at all? And so if we just see line and no hook, we know we're immediately, upping the level of terror. So essentially that means the seal likely has swallowed the hook, and that is going to be a much more different and complicated intervention than if it's like caught on the tongue or the lip or something like that. Oh, and so there was that question about the twins. So there have been occasional reports of monk seals having twins. I think, though, they're not. One of them is often not successful because mom doesn't have enough resources to provide for both individuals.
And it's only been since we've been monitoring since the early 80s, and so this is all the seals in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, all the seals here. We've had 8 cases ever, so it's really rare.
Well, our questions are winding down, so...
Okay.
Can I ask one?
Oh, dear. Yes, Anthony?
Are or seals in general, are they location aware? Like, do they know where they are? Meaning, like you say, like they tend to return to where they were born to give birth to their pup. How do they even know that?
Sure. So I'm gonna wing it a little bit, but I think you guys are gonna have to jump in. So the question is do seals know where they are? We talk about them coming back to the place of their birth potentially to have pups later on. So I don't know. I don't think we know how seals actually navigate. But what we do know is seals that have been moved just after weaning typically will come back to the spot. If they're going to come back to give birth somewhere, they come back to the spot they were moved to and not the spot that they were originally born. And so I think that there's some sort of imprinting mechanism at some point during that process, but it happens a little bit into the weaning process versus when they're a pup. In terms of them navigating around islands, currents?
Currents, we think bathymetry, so like the shape of, all the kind of underwater mountains and valleys, we think those are important for navigation. And that's a little bit from following monk seals with telemetry and kind of seeing that they sometimes do follow sort of different ridge lines and things along the bottom. We've also seen animals, if they, in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, we don't see them move between islands as much, and we think part of that is because the water's extremely deep and probably gives them a little less to go by. So those are some ways we think that they navigate. Like Eliza said, we don't have absolute certainty on that. From animals that we've tracked, we do see a lot of animals that tend to go back to one haul out spot a lot and then go out to some foraging spot or a few foraging spots pretty frequently. So, it does seem like they know where they are, they know where they're going. So yeah, we don't know exactly how monk seals perceive their environment, but we think they have a pretty good idea of what's out there and what they're going for.
Yes.
One more for Anthony. You guys can't see it. We have a huge crowd.
Can you talk about the volunteers and the work? So now that nobody can see Kaimana or where she is she still being monitored by volunteers? And are the volunteers still doing what they do around the island, even though that people aren't seeing them as much now that they're not in Kaimana Beach?
Anthony's question in a nutshell was, if no one sees a volunteer on the beach, are they still watching seals? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to let Eliza take this one since she spends a lot of time liaisoning with this volunteer organization.
Yes. Thank you. This is a wonderful question.
So Eliza hears the tree falling in the forest.
Yes, I always hear the tree falling in the forest, even if I'm not there. They do text me. Wow, we're getting into some serious, deep conversation here. So yes, the volunteers are still out doing what they're doing. They were still out doing what they were doing even when half their team was at Kaimana's at a given time. So whenever there is a report of a monk seal on their 220-7802 hotline, they generally go out and identify the seal to be able to pass that information along to NOAA. And then depending on the type of location it's in, if it's in a super busy spot like Waikiki, or it also depends on the type of seal it is, if it's a super skittish seal or if it's a seal that just don't care, all that information gives them a reason to either put up a seal resting area, which is the boundaries that you were seeing at Kaimana's, or to just put up a sign or not to have anything at all. But they generally stick around regardless to do outreach if it's going to be an area where people are going to come by. And so they're still doing that every single day, multiple times a day, all over the island. And they are still watching over Kaimana.
Do you think they need more help?
I would think that they are tired. They spend, hours and hours and hours on the beach in the hot sun in all kinds of weather, making sure that people get to hear all about seals when they pass by and provide us with lots of information. And they go, like I was saying, all over the islands. And so, yes, they are stretched a bit thin and could certainly use more resources. So if you are interested, you can go on their website and figure out how to become a volunteer yourself.
And I would say a lot of the volunteers I've talked to, everyone kind of has the pup that got them started. Most people get into volunteering and the sort of volunteer monk seal monitoring because at some point the beach they went to had a monk seal pup and they were so amazed and thought it was so beautiful. And so I'm sure a lot of people must feel that way after watching Kaimana grow up.
Yes.
Kaimana.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more question. In recognition of the Year of the Monk Seal, are there any upcoming outreach events that the public can attend to learn more outside of our Pupdate?
Tell us more.
So the question was, in recognition of Year of the Monk Seal, did you know that? It's Year of the Monk Seal. He's wondering if there are any specific events that people can come to celebrate and engage with us more about monk seals. And I do know that we have a couple of specific events coming up. Do you have the dates and locations for those?
I do.
Wonderful.
Well, actually, I know of the two biggies that I know of coming up soonest are actually both at Waikiki Aquarium. One is in the evening, August 25th. That's a Friday evening. And I forget the exact name of the event, but it's basically like family night at the aquarium. And we're going to have some monk seal information. The lovely Civil Beat guys have said maybe we can get a Kaimana Greatest Hits reel to share with people by then.
Working on it.
Thank you.
Anthony says he's working on it, which is awesome. So we will be certainly sharing Kaimana updates, but we also have a ton of great monk seal educational and informational materials that we'll be there to share with. And then a lot of other groups will be at that event as well. And then September 23rd, which I believe is a Saturday, we're going to have a just total monk seal spotlights, Year of the Monk Seal, hurrah event at the aquarium. We are going to be sharing videos both of Kaimana, videos of the other work that we do, some talks with scientists, and also unveiling a very exciting product of one of our partners. Am I allowed to say it?
I don't know yet. I feel like we might want to keep them hanging for a few more minutes on that one.
It will be refreshing and
will.
delicious,
It
and you should come to the aquarium to find out on September 23rd.
We were talking about a really cool water sprinkling system.
But so those are a couple events coming up at the aquarium. Hanauma Bay, on a regular basis, has really cool science talks geared towards public audiences, so you can find out a ton about just about anything. But October is going to be the month of monk seals, and it's going to be every Thursday in October. Someone else from the monk seal program is going to be giving a talk about some different aspect about monk seals. I know I'll be talking, Eliza will be talking. Tracy Worth is going to be, actually I want to give a shout out for this one. She's actually going to be talking about the legacy of the citizen science information that we've gotten from kind of the superest volunteer of all time, D.B. Dunlap, who we lost. Sadly, we lost right around the same time that Kaimana was born. So I know there's like a little piece of DB like watching over that seal. But so Tracy's going to give a really nice talk, kind of talking about all the contributions he made. I think Charles is going to give a talk about some of the updates and interesting conservation projects that we have coming up. So check out I think probably the best place is the Hanauma Bay website to get the details on when each of those talks is happening.
And we'll post it in the Facebook group.
And you'll post it in the Facebook group. That's wonderful. And there are a couple other things that I can't remember the dates for, but we do have a photo contest going on for a Year of the Monk Seal calendar. So you can find that also, I think, on a couple of pages that we've shared with Civil Beat, but also on the Pyro, NOAA Pyro website. And just if you Google Monk Seal photo contest calendar NOAA, you will find it.
Any of these people have gotten photos of monk seals?
I don't. They're probably not having a whole huge library by now. And then also on top of the fun visual stuff, we're with the calendar, we're going to be helping to support an art show that I don't think we have the date set yet, but look for it coming in January is kind of the culmination of the entire year of the monk seal. And we're looking for all types of media for that. But the release has not been out yet, so you'll see that shortly. Are there any? Okay. So I do have one extra surprise. I want to talk more. I did want to say, I think that we've had a lot of incredible support from everyone who's been watching over Kaimana for these several weeks. And the capture, we were definitely a bit nervous about how the crowd was going to influence the situation. We really want to make sure in any of these responses that we do that we are keeping the stress to the animal at a minimal, and I think that we were able to do that with a lot of support from the crowd, so thank you for that. And we're hoping to continue to keep her in a very low impact environment, and I know a lot of people have been reading your comments and you're trying to figure out where she is and looking for clues and everything, and I know that can be exciting, and I know that people miss being around her, but we're really trying to ensure that she has the best success possible. And just, something that maybe folks aren't thinking about, we have a really incredibly unique culture that we share in these islands, and there are, sensitivities on, depending on where you go, and who you interact with in these different areas, that I would just hope that people are aware of. If you do end up figuring out where she is and you feel you must go, we would hope that you would just watch the videos that we're trying to post and the pictures, but just be really, really conscious of the fact that, there are certainly repercussions to the population, to individual animals, if, the people that are on and see the land as their kuleana are offended by crowds that come. And so I just wanted to, make that really clear and just ask that people be really, really respectful of the animal and our community here. So thanks, everybody.